Good morning. The Subcommittee on Technology and Innovation of the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology will come to order. Pursuant to notice, the Subcommittee on Technology and Innovation meets to consider the following measure. H.R. 1425, the Creating Jobs Through Small Business Innovation Act of 2011. We will now proceed with the markup, beginning with opening statements, and I will begin. Today, our subcommittee will consider H.R. 1425, the Creating Jobs Through Small Business Innovation Act of 2011. This bill was introduced on April 7th and referred to our subcommittee. H.R. 1425 authorizes the Small Business Innovation Research and the Small Business Technology Transfer programs through fiscal year 2014. These programs play a vital role in expanding innovation and increasing the role of small business in the federal research and development. They have also helped thousands of small businesses create and sustain jobs and commercialize their products. While the SBIR and STTR programs have been effective, there are areas where they can be improved. I will summarize a few of the major changes proposed in H.R. 1425. First, the legislation increases the award amounts in both the SBIR and STTR programs for Phase 1 and Phase 2 to $150,000 and $1 million, respectively. The legislation also provides for the award size to be annually indexed to inflation moving forward. Second, the legislation enables majority venture capital-backed firms to compete for a limited percentage of SBIR awards. Up until 2005 administrative ruling, small businesses with majority backing by venture capital were eligible to participate in SBIR. The legislation we are considering today would set a ceiling on the amount of funds that each agency may award to companies with substantial venture capital backing. Allowing these firms to compete for a percentage of awards will continue to provide agencies with the flexibility of making awards to the most competitive companies regardless of their venture capital relationship, while preserving the majority of the awards for small businesses without substantial venture capital involvement. Third, the program continues to emphasize the importance of commercializing technologies by creating commercialization pilot programs and providing increased use of funds for technology assistance. The SBIR and STTR programs must continue to evolve to help companies overcome the valley of death between basic research and commercialization. Most importantly, the legislation requires rigorous evaluation of the programs to ensure that we are getting the greatest return on our taxpayer investment. Currently, our ability to conduct effective evaluations is hampered by insufficient data collection and a lack of common measurement criteria among participating federal agencies. The legislation before us today would strengthen SBIR and STTR data collection requirements and evaluations, both at the individual agencies and within the management of the entire program at the Small Business Administration. This is particularly necessary in today's budget environment. I am pleased that Ranking Member Wu has chosen to be an original co-sponsor of this legislation and recognize that he has championed these programs over the years. We both agree that the lack of a substantive reauthorization creates uncertainty for many small businesses across the nation and may have the effect of limiting some innovations these programs could otherwise support. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Chairman Hall and Ranking Member Johnson for joining us as original co-sponsors of this legislation. I strongly urge my colleagues to support H.R. 1425, and I now recognize the gentleman from Oregon for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Quayle. I have looked forward to this day. I think that by coming out of the chute fast on this bill, that we will get this bill passed, and it is important. It will be the first jobs legislation out of this Congress. It is important because small businesses are the most important component of jobs creation as well as creating an innovation-based economy, and I want to recognize your leadership in putting this bill together, and Mr. Hall, the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Hall, for his contribution in putting this committee, this legislation together. We have passed this legislation through the last two Congresses. And each time we have come close to getting the legislation done, but last time it came right down to the last day of the lame duck session. This time I think that coming out first and early means that we will get the legislation done. Small businesses are crucial to the economic growth of our nation and our ability to create new jobs. In fact, according to Small Business Administration, small businesses have generated 64% of the net new jobs over the last 15 years. The SBIR and STTR programs are the largest source of federal support for technological innovation in the private sector. These programs are instrumental in spurring innovation by small businesses in this country and helping them to create jobs. As our hearing last month also highlighted, small businesses also fill a crucial role in meeting federal technologic needs, particularly in the national security sector. The SBIR and STTR programs tap into the unique capabilities of small businesses to develop cost-effective and technologic solutions quickly and efficiently. The bill we are marking up today is a good bill. The bipartisan bill that we moved through the committee and passed through the House last Congress serves as a good template for this bill. Also, the bill builds upon some of the very good work that was done in the Senate at the end of the last session. The message is clear. After more than 3 years of working on a comprehensive reauthorization, we have finally reached a place where there is nearly universal support for reauthorizing these very important programs and, at long last, bicameral, bipartisan agreement on the best way to go about doing that. Of course, there are certainly ways that this bill could be strengthened and improved, and I am confident that it will be as it makes its way through this committee, through the Small Business Committee, and to the House floor. But I would urge against us spending months more and even years more tinkering around the edges, allowing the perfect to be the enemy of the good, and continuing to let these important programs languish. The time has come to get this good bill over the finish line. This bill incorporates the key priorities that were included in the previous House bill. It allows venture capital-backed small businesses to once again apply for awards and specifically defines their eligibility requirements. It increases award sizes for Phase 1 and Phase 2 awards. It provides more flexibility to the program to ensure that it continues to meet the ever-changing needs of the high-tech sector. It ensures better data collection, allowing for improved oversight and evaluation. It streamlines paperwork requirements and reduces bureaucratic red tape, things that all of us support. And it expands commercialization efforts to help ensure that the taxpayers get the biggest bang for their buck. Thank you, Chairman Quayle, for working with me on this bill. It has been a pleasure working with you, and I commend you for your leadership for this good piece of bipartisan legislation. And I also want to thank the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Hall, for his good work on this legislation, as well as Ranking Member Eddie Bernice Johnson for her work on this legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wu. Without objection, all member opening statements will be placed in the record at this point. We will now proceed with the markup, beginning with the opening. Wait, we already did that. Nope. We'll now commence with the reading of the legislation. Nope. No. Without objection, I ask unanimous consent that the bill is considered as read and open to amendment at any point, and that the members proceed with the amendments in the order of the roster. So ordered. Are there any amendments to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The first amendment is offered by the gentleman from Oregon. Are you ready to proceed with your amendment?
Yes, I am.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment number 006, amendment to H.R. 1425, offered by Mr. Wu of Oregon.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading. Without objection, so ordered. The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes to explain the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The last comprehensive reauthorization for the SBIR program expired in September of 2008. The current legislation authorizes a reauthorization period of 5 years, and I'm sorry, reauthorizes the legislation for 2 years, and this amendment reauthorizes the bill for a total of 5 years. I believe that those who are applying for SBIR grants would appreciate some stability in the program for a longer period of time, and also the longer period of time permits the National Research Council evaluation program to be completed in the 4-year period after enactment. Providing for a 5-year reauthorization will allow us to take that evaluation into consideration before we begin the reauthorization for the next cycle. I recognize that this legislation makes significant changes, and there is nothing from preventing us from revisiting these issues in the interim. We do not need an expired reauthorization to legislate, and I believe that the reauthorization is really quite short. The Senate started with a much longer reauthorization period, and I do believe that ultimately we will settle on an appropriate period somewhere in the 5, 6, or 7-year range, and I believe that moving toward that number will be a significant sign to the other chamber that we are ready to meet them close to halfway, so that we can expedite the process of moving this legislation through conference and to legislation that can pass both chambers and that the President can sign. And I do urge adoption of this amendment.
I thank the ranking member for his amendment and appreciate his desire to provide a longer authorization for the program. However, I believe that the 3-year authorization currently provided in H.R. 1425 is appropriate. The bill before us makes significant changes to the programs, including provisions modifying the participation of companies backed by venture capital, award sizes, and data collection. Additionally, during the time of the authorization, the National Research Council and Government Accountability Office are scheduled to complete a number of ongoing studies which will help inform the next reauthorization measure. I believe that it is Congress's responsibility to take another look at this program after 3 years, and that 5 years is too long of a time for it to continue without Congress considering adjustments. Additionally, I am hopeful that our economic situation will be improved in 3 years' time, and that also may inform updates to the programs that are prudent prior to 2016. For these reasons, I must oppose the ranking member's amendment.
If the chairman would yield just for a very brief comment.
I yield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to point out again that the NRC study will take 4 years to be completed, and I do believe that taking the results of that study into account will be important to our further consideration of a reauthorization. I yield back to the chairman.
I duly noted, and I want to thank the member for the amendment. Is there a further discussion on the amendment? If no, that vote occurs on the amendment. All those in favor...
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. The nays have it, and the amendment is not agreed to.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to note that given the number of folks who are here today, I am not going to call for a recorded vote today. I can also count at the full committee, but I just want to let the chairman know that I'm likely to offer this amendment and call for a vote at the full committee.
Thank you, Mr. Wu.
Thank you.
Are there any other amendments to the bill?
Mr. Chairman,
For what purpose does the gentleman seek recognition?
I have an amendment at the desk.
The next amendment is offered by the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Lipinski. Are you ready to proceed with your amendment?
Yes, I am.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment number 015, amendment to H.R. 1425, offered by Mr. Lipinski of Illinois.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading. Without objection, so ordered. Mr. Lipinski is now recognized for 5 minutes to discuss his amendment.
Thank you, Chairman Quayle. I'd like to thank you and Ranking Member Wu for your work in conjunction with Chairman Hall and Ranking Member Johnson to quickly move this critical bill forward. I've been a strong supporter of the SBIR and STTR program since I've been in Congress, and excited at the prospect of doing away with temporary extensions and finally reauthorizing these programs. And that's why I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of this bill. Since its inception in 1982, the SBIR program has created jobs by making sure our nation's small businesses help the federal research agencies accomplish their missions. But in spite of these programs, American innovations don't always translate into American jobs. Too many of our breakthroughs ultimately turn into products manufactured abroad in countries like Japan and China. My amendment would help reverse this trend and create American manufacturing jobs. The bill before us makes permanent the successful commercialization pilot program at the Department of Defense, and it authorizes other agencies to follow DoD's lead by establishing commercialization pilot programs of their own. My amendment would improve the bill by requiring civilian agencies, when making awards in a pilot program, to consider whether a technology is likely to be manufactured in the United States. This will help make sure that the taxpayer dollars we invest in R&D ultimately produce American jobs. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment. I think this is a common sense approach. We should be focusing not just on job creation, we should be focusing on American job creation. There is so much that has been done, so much research that has been done, so much technology that has been developed here in the United States. It's important that we do everything we can to make the next step and help ensure that these jobs are done in America, the jobs that come out of this technology. So I urge my colleagues to support this amendment, and I will yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Lipinski. I have some reservations about the ability of an agency to measure the likelihood of whether the technology supported by the commercialization pilot program would be manufactured in the United States. That being said, I agree with the gentleman from Illinois that the SBIR and STTR programs should be promoting job growth within the United States, and I support the amendment. I want to thank you for the amendment, and is there any further discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman from Oregon.
I thank the chairman. I thank the gentleman from Illinois for this good amendment. I do believe that a very important goal of this legislation is to create jobs in the United States, and I think that this amendment will move in that direction. And I thank the gentleman and yield back.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Ms. Biggert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a question of the sponsor. In looking at this, I understand that you want to have the manufacturing done in the U.S., but to look at it, but what does that mean to consider what happens if it's not? And in many cases where we have a product, it's where we bring in parts from other countries to put into the product. How does that work? Is there a penalty if you don't have everything made in the U.S.?
Would gentleman yield?
I yield to the gentleman.
No, that's an important point. There's no way to guarantee that it is going to be made in the United States. This is just saying when the award is made that consideration has to be given to the expectation of whether this will be made in the United States. But there's nothing whatsoever in here that says there is a penalty if it's not made in the United States. We cannot be certain of that. No one who is judging the submission for an award would be able to know for sure, and there's no way to go back and analyze.
Reclaiming my time, does it mean then that maybe an award would be made to someone who is going to manufacture in the U.S. over someone else who is going to use other products from foreign countries? Will that be a priority?
Well, the intention is to make a priority the awards going to someplace that is expected to, has a greater expectation that it will create jobs in the United States rather than jobs elsewhere. So yes, that's the purpose of it, is to help to create American jobs, but there are no guarantees, and there's not a way in this amendment to penalize. But I certainly think that we should be doing what we can. These are federal dollars. We should be doing what we can to encourage and do the best that we can to be creating American jobs from this.
Reclaiming my time, then do you think that sometimes we will give awards to someone who probably doesn't have as good a product as somebody else who's using some of the foreign companies.
Will the gentleman, will the gentlelady yield? Let me give the gentlelady a potential example of how this might work. A study was done at Carnegie Mellon University. I believe the underlying technology was optical chips. And what the principal investigator found was that the folks with really cutting-edge technology had an option of manufacturing those chips either in the United States, close to the source of the research, or they could try to manufacture in China, and actually found that the manufacturing of these chips in China was not only unsuccessful, but was deleterious to the domestic prior generation optical chip technology here in the United States. I don't know if I made myself clear, but that is perhaps the simplest way to describe what she found, what this professor found. In that instance, there were several competing companies to manufacture this cutting-edge optical chip technology, and under those conditions, I think that, again, hypothetically, if they had applied for SBIR funding, that there might be an inclination to make awards to those companies which were inclined to do their manufacturing in the United States. And I think that that is appropriate not only to create American jobs, but also to keep that very important industry in the United States. Granted, this is hypothetical, but this is a research paper which is in the literature and which we can invite her to come talk to the Science Committee at any time. But I think it is a very important example of keeping jobs and technology, cutting-edge technology, and very important jobs here in the United States. And I yield back.
Thank you.
To the gentlelady.
Reclaiming my time. And I thank both gentlemen. I just want to make sure when we go back and look at the legislative intent that it's not black and white saying that you have to go to the those that are manufactured in the U.S. Of course we want to have that, but I think that sometimes there is a product that we might want to have developed. And I yield back.
Is there further discussion on the amendment? If no, the vote occurs on the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to. I now recognize myself to offer the next amendment. I have an amendment at the desk, amendment number 007. The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment number 007, amendment to H.R. 1425, offered by Mr. Quayle of Arizona.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading without objection, so order. I recognize myself for 5 minutes to explain the amendment. The bill before us today strives to shorten the length of time it takes for an agency to make final decisions on SBIR or STTR awards. For many small businesses, waiting months on end to determine if they will receive an award makes budgeting and prioritization difficult. The bill sets new requirements for agencies to make a final decision within 90 days after a solicitation is closed. While I support the goal of Section 206 to assist small businesses anxious to find out the fate of their proposal, I also recognize the rigorous peer review that some agencies subject these proposals to, and respect that this process may take longer than the 90 days provided by the new shortened period for final decisions on proposals. My amendment would permit agencies that typically require a period longer than 90 days to complete their internal peer review requirements, in this case the National Institutes of Health and the National Science Foundation, to maintain these systems. The amendment would allow them to exceed the 90 days limitation because I believe that it is most important to have a complete and rigorous review of each application. For these agencies to comply with the 90-day timeline, they would have to overhaul their peer review process. I believe diluting the NIH and NSF peer review processes would call into question the quality of awards in the SBIR and STTR programs as compared to the other programs these agencies support through their extramural research budgets. In order to avoid this unintended consequence, my amendment would maintain current peer review processes for SBIR and STTR awards at NIH and NSF. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Yes, Chair recognizes Mr. Wu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I believe that your amendment is a very, very good amendment. As I was reviewing the legislation as it came back in its draft form in this Congress, I became very concerned about the requirement, a hard-edged requirement, that this process move forward within 90 days. I certainly believe in shortening up the cycle time. We've heard that from awardees and especially applicants repeatedly. So I'm not standing up for foot dragging, and we do need to speed up the process. However, every single agency has made it clear that they make awards on a merit basis, and I don't think that the legislation should force that process forward any faster than the agencies think that they can do it. And I have a very deep concern about the other agencies, other than the ones that are already listed in here, and also NIH and NSF. So I hope that as we move this legislation forward from this subcommittee to the full committee, and especially in that part of the process, because I think we'll have more opportunity to change this requirement in the Science Committee, I hope that we will further review how hard-edged this 90-day requirement is, and if it's appropriate to permit adjustment of that period, either in the legislation or in the regulations that the agencies work under. And I want to commend the chairman for what I believe to be a very good amendment here, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Wu. Is there further discussion on the amendment? If no, the vote occurs on the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to. Are there any other amendments to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The next amendment is offered by the gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Wilson. Are you ready to proceed with your amendment?
Yes, I am.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment number 006, amendment to H.R. 1425, offered by Ms. Wilson of Florida.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading. Without objection, so ordered. The gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Chairman Quayle. Today I'm offering a simple amendment. I'm offering an amendment that was non-controversial in the last Congress when it was included in the bipartisan reauthorization of the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer Programs that passed out of the full committee by voice vote, and then passed the House by an overwhelming margin of 386 to 41. My amendment authorizes $10 million for fiscal years 2012 to 2014 for an outreach program at the Small Business Administration to attract small businesses owned and controlled by women and minorities into the SBIR and STTR programs. It is 8 pages of identical text, word for word, other than last year's authorized that was included in last year's House Resolution 2965. One of the stated objectives of the SBIR program is to foster the participation of women and minority-owned businesses in technological innovation. Unfortunately, a 2008 assessment of the program by the National Research Council showed that federal agencies involved in the SBIR have not been successful in meeting this goal. One example is the National Science Foundation, in which the number of women-owned businesses receiving awards has remained flat. The results when analyzing minority-owned firms receiving SBIR funds is even more troubling. Awards have stagnated across every agency, and at the Department of Defense, the number has actually declined substantially over time, falling under 10% in 2004 and getting progressively worse every year. My amendment addresses those concerns. It helps the Small Business Innovative Research Program in meeting its objective. Furthermore, it also calls on federal agencies to reach out to small businesses from geographic areas that have historically not been involved in the program, as well as those from areas that are suffering from high unemployment rates. It also provides for outreach to those businesses that are owned and controlled by service-disabled veterans who are disabled while serving. Our veterans need our support, especially those that are disabled. Small businesses serve a vital role in our economy. They are innovative and, more often than not, the principal source of new jobs. You never know where the next big new idea will come from, and we must do all that we can to support the innovative potential of all of our small businesses. I urge you to support this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. The chair agrees with the gentlelady from Florida that we should encourage broad participation in the SBIR and STTR programs. However, I believe it is inappropriate time to authorize a $10 million expenditure for the grant program created by this amendment. One of the strengths of H.R. 1425 is that it is revenue neutral. Funding for the SBIR and STTR programs come from a set-aside of pre-existing agency research and development budgets. By authorizing this program, the committee would be adding costs to this bill. Given our current budget situation, we feel it is extremely important to prevent growth in government expenditures. My understanding is that the gentleman from New Mexico, Mr. Lujan, will be offering an amendment which also encourages greater participation by underrepresented businesses without adding to the overall cost of the bill. I will be supporting that amendment. However, I recommend opposing the amendment we are currently considering, and I urge my colleagues to oppose it as well. Is there any further discussion on that amendment?
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Mr. Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I urge adoption of this very sound amendment. And it is a very important goal of the SBIR program in the underlying statute to foster participation by a broader range of applicants, because indeed you don't know where the next great idea will be coming from. And the National Research Council, in its study and recommendations, found that the agencies participating in SBIR should take additional steps to increase the rates of women and minority-owned firms, and specifically recommended additional outreach efforts to achieve this goal. So I recommend adoption of the gentlelady's amendment and yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Is there further discussion on this amendment?
If the chair will yield for a brief comment.
Yes, chair yields.
Mr. Chair, I come from a district where this amendment would help create so many jobs. The 10 million would be minuscule within a year. I intend to also propose this amendment with the full committee, and I'm hoping that by that time we will be sensitive to this population that we're trying to deal with, to expand the opportunities. We talk about jobs, jobs, jobs. We came to Washington to create jobs. This is the way we create jobs. This is how we reduce the deficit, by creating jobs. I ask that you support the amendment when it comes up again, since there is some reticent now. Thank you.
I think, Ms. Wilson, I do want to point out that this is $10 million a year, so it's $30 million. And I do support what I believe Mr. Lujan will be providing an amendment, which is a revenue neutral bill that will actually do the same thing without actually increasing our costs. So that's why I support that and not this, because I think it will be much more efficient to get this through the House when you have a revenue neutral bill like it is right now.
Mr. Chairman, whoever's controlling the time, if someone could yield me just a couple of seconds here.
The chair recognizes Mr. Wu for a couple seconds.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps the gentlelady from Florida could work with the chairman and the chairman of the full committee so that between now and the full committee markup, her amendment could be restructured in a way so that it is revenue neutral, and I realize that the gentlelady might prefer to go a different way, but this is a very important objective, and I believe that what the chairman may be indicating is that if this amendment could be structured in a revenue neutral way, that it would receive very serious attention at the full committee level.
I don't know if I'm saying that. I do think that what Mr. Lujan is proposing to offer is probably the best way to go about it, to try to get underrepresented businesses involved in the SBIR program. But is there further discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, the chair recognizes Mr. Lujan.
And Mr. Chairman, while I fully appreciate what sounds like support for amendment number 014, any time that we can have a conversation about allocating resources to be able to further reach out to minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, I think that's something that is worth having a serious conversation about, and truly seeing how we may be able to work with Ms. Wilson by the time that we get full committee. I do support her amendment as well, but just seeing what we might be able to do to further that along, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. No further discussion on the amendment. The vote occurs. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The nays have it, and the amendment is not agreed to.
I'd like to have a recorded vote.
The clerk will call the roll.
Chairman Quayle.
No.
Chairman Quayle votes no. Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith votes no. Mrs. Biggert. Mrs. Biggert votes no. Mr. Nagelbauer. Mr. Nagelbauer votes no. Mr. McCall. Mr. McCall votes no. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Ridgel. Mr. Ridgel votes no. Mr. Holtgren. Mr. Holtgren votes no. Mr. Carvack. Mr. Carvack votes no. Mr. Hall. Mr. Wu.
Yes.
Mr. Wu votes aye. Mr. Sarbanes. Ms. Wilson.
Aye.
Ms. Wilson votes aye. Mr. Lipinski.
Aye.
Mr. Lipinski votes aye. Ms. Giffords. Mr. Lujan.
Aye.
Mr. Lujan votes aye. Ms. Johnson.
Are there other members who wish to vote?
Mr. Hall.
recognize
Mr.
Ms. Hall.
Hall is not recorded.
The chair recognizes Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hall votes aye. Mr. Hall votes no. Mr. Hall votes no.
Are there members who wish to change their vote? The clerk shall report the vote.
Mr. Chairman, 4 members vote aye and 9 members vote no.
4, 9. On this vote, there were 4 ayes and 9 noes. The amendment is not agreed to.
Thank you.
Are there any other amendments to the bill?
Mr. Chairman,
For what purpose does the gentleman seek recognition?
I have an amendment at the desk.
The next amendment is offered by the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Lipinski. Are you ready to proceed with your amendment?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman.
Clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment number 016, amendment to H.R. 1425, offered by Mr. Lipinski of Illinois.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading. Without objection, so ordered. The chair now recognizes Mr. Lipinski to discuss his amendment.
Thank you, Chairman Quayle. I think it'll be very quick. Section 307 of this bill already authorizes the National Academy of Sciences to continue evaluating the SBIR and the STTR programs. Among other things, this study will look at the number of jobs created by these programs. My amendment is very simple. It adds, after the words number of jobs created, it adds in the United States, making clear that Congress wants the academies to look at the creation of American jobs. While I would hope they would do this anyways, my clarification would make sure that Congress gets the information we need out of this study. I urge my colleagues to support the amendment and yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Lipinski. The chair agrees with the gentleman from Illinois that this is important for the national academies to estimate the number of jobs created in the United States. I thank the gentleman for his recommendation, and I support this amendment. Is there further discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman,
The chair recognizes Mr. Wu.
I urge adoption of the amendment and yield back the balance of my time.
Is there further discussion on the amendment? If not, the vote occurs on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to. Are there any other amendments to the bill? For what purpose does the gentleman seek recognition?
I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment number 015, amendment to H.R. 1425, offered by Mr. Lujan of New Mexico.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading. Without objection, so order. The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes to explain his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment would authorize a review of the STTR program, the Small Business Technology Transfer Program, by the National Research Council, similar to the study that they did for the SBIR program. Such a review is long overdue. The most recent examination of the STTR program was a 2001 GAO report, which was used from 2001 reauthorization of the program. However, this report was based off of the 102 Phase 2 projects from 1995 to 1997, the first 3 years that such awards were made. So the past 14 years of STTR awards experience is left unexamined and unreviewed. Under this amendment, the initial study, which is to be submitted to Congress 2 years after enactment, will evaluate the partnerships created between small businesses and research institutions, the effectiveness of the programs of transferring technology, and capabilities from research institutions to small businesses, the degree of success at commercializing technologies developed in the program compared to similar technology transfer programs, and the economic benefits achieved by the program. The study will also provide recommendations on the effects that an increase or decrease in the set-aside percentage for the STTR program would have and possible improvements to the program. They would not be recommending whether there should be an increase or decrease, just what they believe the effects would be. It is imperative that a study of this program be performed as part of our constitutional oversight responsibilities, so I urge adoption of this amendment. I yield back.
I thank the gentleman from New Mexico for his interest in evaluating the STTR program. I agree that we need to learn more about the effectiveness of the STTR program in promoting technology transfer. I also agree that it is important to evaluate the effectiveness of the partnerships created between small businesses and research institutions, including our nation's colleges and universities. While I support greater evaluation of this program, I am concerned about the effects of commissioning the NRC to conduct an entirely separate study when the bill already provides for continued regular evaluations of the largest programs across the federal government. In the time that we had to review the amendment, I am uncertain whether it may incur unnecessary cost and use of resources. As you know, H.R. 1425 commissions the NRC to continue its comprehensive evaluation of the SBIR program. It also asks the NRC to evaluate some features of the STTR program. However, I agree that we need more information to effectively evaluate a program that disperses over $200 million of our tax dollars each year. My sense is that this study can be incorporated within the currently scheduled SBIR study. To that end, would the gentleman consider withdrawing his amendment, recognizing that the chair hopes that we can work together at full committee to include a provision requiring a comprehensive evaluation of the STTR program? And I yield to the gentleman.
If the chairman yields, Mr. Chairman, I'd be willing to withdraw the amendment if we could work together on coming up with some language that we can agree on. Thank you.
I thank the gentleman from New Mexico, and we will work together on that language. Are there any other amendments to the bill?
Mr. Chairman,
The gentleman from New Mexico.
I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment number 014, amendment to H.R. 1425, offered by Mr. Lujan of New Mexico.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading. Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you.
The chair now recognizes the gentleman from New Mexico for 5 minutes to discuss his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment today adds a section to the bill that would require agencies to encourage applications from small businesses located in underrepresented areas or areas with excessive unemployment rates, as well as small business owned and controlled by veterans, women, and minorities. Now more than ever, as our country begins its recovery from the recession, we must support minority and women-owned businesses. According to the United States Census Bureau, minority-owned businesses generate $1 trillion in economic output to the U.S. economy and create 5.9 million jobs, and these numbers are only predicted to grow. Women-owned firms represent almost 29% of businesses in the United States. In my home state of New Mexico, minority-owned businesses represent over 30% of the business in the state. Mr. Chairman, the numbers prove that these businesses are an essential part of our economy and will continue to experience increased growth. Minority and women-owned businesses have the potential to lift our most rural and underrepresented areas from poverty, and I'm offering this amendment today to ensure that these important STTR and SBIR programs opportunities are accessible and available to them. As our men and women return home from serving our country, it is critical that we provide them with the best possible opportunities to succeed professionally here at home. We must reach out to our veterans and help equip them with technical assistance they need to develop and grow their businesses. Supporting veteran, minority, and women-owned businesses is good for our economy and good for our nation. And Mr. Chairman, we just learned that, sadly, for the first time in many years, the percentage of minority-owned firms has declined substantially in cooperation with DOD. And this is something that truly that we have to figure out how to turn on again. I encourage my colleagues to vote for the amendment today. I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back my time.
I thank the gentleman from New Mexico for his amendment. The amendment would require federal agencies to encourage SBIR and STTR applications from companies which historically have been underrepresented in SBIR and STTR awards. I believe that the competitive nature of the program is maintained under this amendment and that it aligns with the overall goals of the programs, and I urge my colleagues to vote aye on the amendment. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? If no, the vote occurs on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to. Are there any other amendments to the bill? Appearing none, the vote occurs on the bill as amended. I will now recognize Ms. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I will now recognize Ms. Biggert to offer a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the subcommittee favorably report H.R. 1425 as amended to the full committee. Furthermore, I move that the staff be instructed to prepare the subcommittee report and make necessary technical and conforming changes to the bill as amended in accordance with the recommendations of the subcommittee.
The question is on the motion to report the bill favorably. Those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it, and the resolution is favorably reported. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. I move that members have 2 subsequent calendar days in which to submit supplemental, minority, or additional views in the measure. Without objection, so order. This concludes our subcommittee markup. The chair declares the subcommittee adjourned.